Dubro Suspicion Files.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1989. A guy named Bob Lazar basically walks out of the shadows and single-handedly puts Area 51 on the map for, well, pretty much everyone. He claimed he was a physicist hired by the US government to reverse engineer alien spaceships. It's a story that has literally defined UFO lore for more than 30 years. So was he telling the truth? Was this the biggest reveal of all time? Or was it one of the most elaborate hoaxes we've ever seen? Let's dig in.
And these were the words that just lit the fuse, broadcast on a local Las Vegas TV station. I mean, think about it. He wasn't talking about some fuzzy lights in the distance. No, he was giving, like, technical specs, blueprints almost. He was saying the government didn't just know about aliens, they had their ships parked in a garage somewhere. This wasn't a sighting, this was an inventory.
And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? For decades, people have been fighting over Bob Lazar. Was this guy a hero, a whistleblower blowing the lid off the biggest secret in history? Or was he just an incredibly clever storyteller who cooked up the perfect modern myth? To really get to the bottom of this, we've got to rewind a bit and figure out why his story was just so compelling to begin with.
So to really get a grip on the whole Lazar phenomenon, you have to transport yourself back to the late 80s. The Cold War was ending, but that deep-seated culture of government secrecy was still very much alive. Everybody was kind of paranoid, totally ready to believe the government was hiding some really big stuff. And right into that moment walks Bob Lazar.
See, this is the brilliant part. He didn't sound like some new age guru talking about peace and love from the stars. He sounded like a guy who was just fed up with his government job. He complained about security clearances, about the boring bus ride to work. And this, right here, was his secret weapon. He made this incredible, mind-blowing story sound, well, kind of boring and bureaucratic. It made the unbelievable seem totally plausible. And he was smart about it. He didn't just say, hey, I have a secret job. No, he laid out this trail of breadcrumbs for people to follow. First, you get this huge name drop, Dr. Edward Teller, the guy behind the hydrogen bomb. Then he mentions a real agency, the Office of Naval Intelligence. And then the clincher, the Janet airline, which was a real super-secret thing. He was building his case, one believable step at a time. Okay, so he gets on this bus. Where does it go? Well, according to Lazar, it took him to a place that's now legendary in the whole UFO world, a secret base called S4. And this is where the story goes from everyday government work to something else entirely.
And this is the grand prize, right? The sport model. He didn't just say I saw a saucer. He gave an engineering report on it. This description, no seams, no rivets, this strange metallic finish, basically became the template for every flying saucer you've seen in movies since.
He even gives us a tour of the inside. He's talking about 3 different levels. But it's the little things that made it so believable for people. Like the seats. He says they were tiny, too small for a human, like they were built for something else. It's those kinds of casual, specific details that make you go,
So the big question, how does it fly? And again, Lazar doesn't just wave his hands and say anti-gravity. He gives a mechanism, a propulsion system that doesn't push itself through space. It actually bends space-time around it. What's crazy is that it sounds a lot like the theoretical Alcubierre drive. But here's the kicker. Lazar was talking about this stuff years before that paper ever came out. For his fans, that was the smoking gun.
And now we get to the absolute heart of his technical claim, the power source. He gave it a name, he gave it an atomic number, element 115. Back in 1989, this was a totally theoretical element, so we could say it did pretty much anything. This single element was the linchpin holding his entire story together. And, as we're about to find out, it's also what makes the whole thing fall apart.
All right, so we've heard the story. It's wild, it's compelling, but now it's time to put on our detective hats and actually look at the hard evidence. Does any of this actually hold up? Let's start with the place itself.
Lazar was super specific about this. He pointed to a spot on the map, Papoose Lake, just south of the main Area 51 base. He said there were 9 hangars built right into the side of the mountain, all camouflaged. This is a really clear claim, right? It's something you can actually check. You can either prove it or disprove it.
Yeah, well, here's the giant problem. We have declassified satellite photos from 1988, the exact time he says he was there. And what do they show?
Absolutely nothing. No buildings, no roads, no hangars. Just an empty, dusty lakebed. The place he described in detail, it just wasn't there. And the problems don't stop with a missing building. Let's go back to element 115. He said it was this stable, heavy metal, right? That the government had like 500 pounds of it. Well, fast forward to 2003, and scientists actually created it in a lab. It's called moscovium now. And guess what? It's the total opposite of what Lazar described. It's so unstable, it disappears in less than a second. It's not fuel, it's barely even there.
But honestly, maybe the most damning evidence isn't about physics or satellites, it's about Bob Lazar himself. The whole story hinges on him being this brilliant physicist from MIT and Caltech. But when people actually checked, they found nothing. No records. What they did find was that he went to a junior college, and in a bankruptcy filing, he listed his job as a photo processor. I mean, that's a world away from being a top-secret scientist.
Okay, so if Lazar's story about alien tech is a bust, then what was going on out there in the desert? Because something was definitely happening, it just wasn't aliens.
I want you to just imagine for a second. You're out in the Nevada desert in the late 80s. You look up, and you see that thing in the sky. It's silent, it's black, it moves in ways a plane shouldn't. What on earth would you think you were seeing? That was the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter, top secret. And to anyone on the ground, it would have looked completely alien.
And this is where Lazar was really, really clever. He built his lie on a foundation of truth. That Janet airline he talked about, totally real. The hand scanner he described for security, a real device the military used. His job at Los Alamos? Yep, that was true too. Except he was a low-level tech for a contractor, not a lead physicist. See what he did? He took these real things and wove them into his much bigger, fictional story.
And this, whether he meant to or not, plays perfectly into a known military disinformation tactic. Think about it. If you're testing a secret stealth plane, the UFO story is the perfect cover. Anyone who sees it gets laughed at for seeing a flying saucer, and your multi-billion-dollar project stays under wraps. Lazar's story was the ultimate camouflage.
So you'd think with all this evidence stacked against him, the story would just fade away, right? Nope, not even close. It didn't just survive, it exploded. He created a myth that is arguably bigger now than it was back then.
I mean, look at this number. 30 years after his big interview, more than 2 million people RSVP'd to a Facebook event to literally storm Area 51. They weren't looking for the F-117. They were looking for the alien saucers Lazar told them about. That's how deep his story has sunk into our culture.
But here's the interesting twist. While Lazar's specific story has been pretty thoroughly debunked, the conversation he helped ignite is now front and center. Today, we're not just hearing from one guy. We're hearing from decorated Navy pilots. We're hearing from high-ranking intelligence officials like David Grush, testifying under oath before Congress about secret government programs. The topic has gone from the tabloids to the Senate floor.
And that really brings us to the bottom line here. Lazar's big lie wasn't that there were secrets in the desert. We know there were. His lie was convincing everyone that he was the one who held the keys to those secrets.
So where does that leave us? We've picked apart the man, we've deconstructed the myth, but his story, even as a fabrication, pointed a giant finger at the Nevada desert and screamed, "There are secrets here." So the question is, did his lie, by some strange accident, end up pointing us toward a much deeper, much more real truth about what's really hidden out there? That's something to think about.